You are sterile, Lucy. Inside and out. Mara has life in her. You just have rules. My father blocked the kitchen door as he said it, while my mother poured cheap vodka into my dying sister's liver support shake. She had just finished crushing a blue oxycodone pill into the blender. She is in pain, my mother said, looking me dead in the eye. We are showing her mercy. I did not scream. I did not slap the drink out of her hand. I checked my watch and calculated the dosage in my head. Oxycodone, mixed with alcohol for a patient in liver failure, is not mercy. It is an execution. And in that second, I realized I was not looking at my parents anymore. I was looking at biological pathogens, and I knew exactly how to neutralize them. I have always been the boring one. The clinical pharmacist who pays her taxes early, checks expiration dates, and never forgets a birthday. Mara was the star. She was the beauty queen, the pageant winner, the one who lit up a room until her liver gave out at 26. For the last 6 months, I have paid their mortgage. I have covered Mara's medical co-pays. I have sent $12,000 to keep the lights on in that house, believing my parents were struggling heroes nursing a sick child. I thought I was being a good daughter. I thought I was supporting a tragedy. I know now that I was just funding a production. The reality inside that house was a horror show wrapped in a prayer circle. They moved Mara home from the hospital 3 weeks ago. They told me it was because she wanted to be comfortable. They said she wanted to be surrounded by family. In reality, they moved her home to control the narrative. Hospitals have doctors who ask questions. Hospitals have toxicology screens. At home, there is only my mother, my father, and a pharmacy of drugs they control. They kept her sedated, foggy, and compliant. When neighbors asked why I was rarely there, my mother told them I was the cold, distant sister who refused to visit because I could not handle the emotions. She painted me as the villain to cover the fact that I was the bank. I walked past the living room later that afternoon and froze. The setup was professional. My mother had a ring light and a tripod set up facing the couch where Mara lay, pale and half-conscious. She had positioned a blanket carefully over Mara's legs to make her look smaller, frailer. Brenda hit the go live button on her phone. Her voice changed instantly. It dropped an octave, becoming trembling and tearful. Please pray for our sweet Mara. She sobbed to the camera, wiping a perfectly dry eye. The doctors say it is close now. We are just trying to keep her comfortable, but the medical bills are piling up, and we want to give her the memorial she deserves. If you can donate to the funeral fund link below, God bless you. I watched from the shadows of the hallway. She was not grieving. She was fundraising for a funeral that had not happened yet. She was monetizing my sister's slow murder. As soon as the stream ended, the tears vanished. She snapped at my father, who was sitting in the recliner. Did you check the engagement numbers? We need that cash by the 1st. My father grunted, not looking up from his tablet. We are trending. The donations are up to 4,000. But we need the big payout, Brenda. The mortgage company does not take Facebook likes. I stepped back into the shadows, my heart hammering against my ribs. It was not just abuse. It was a business transaction. They were accelerating Mara's death because they had a balloon mortgage payment due in 30 days. My sister was worth more to them dead than alive. They called me sterile because I live by logic and chemistry. They thought that made me weak. They thought it made me an easy mark. But they forgot one thing about pharmacists. We notice when the dosage does not match the symptoms. And we know exactly how to correct a prescription. I waited until the house was silent. I retreated to the guest room, but I did not pack. I did not sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to the sounds of the house settling. I heard my father's heavy footsteps trudging down the hall. I heard the click of the thermostat. I heard the suffocating silence coming from my sister's room. At 2 a.m, I moved. I crept down the hallway. The floorboards were old, but I grew up walking on them. I knew exactly where they creaked. I avoided the third board from the left. I slipped into my father's office. It smelled of stale cigars and cheap cologne. I went straight to the mahogany desk. It was locked. Of course, I did not need a key. I knew my father. His vanity was his greatest weakness. He used the same 4 digits for everything. 0, 8, 1, 5. August 15th, the date he won the club golf championship 20 years ago. It was the highlight of his life. I spun the dial on the lock. 0, 8, 1, 5. The latch clicked open. I riffled through the papers. Unpaid credit card bills. Past due notices from the bank. And there, tucked inside the dust jacket of an oversized family Bible that had never been read, was a thick envelope. I pulled it out. Life Assurance of America. I opened it. It was a term life insurance policy on Mara. The beneficiary was Hank. The payout was $450,000. I scanned the fine print, And then I saw it. The expiration clause. The terms were set to adjust on the 1st of the month. Due to Mara's pre-existing liver condition, the payout would drop to $50,000 in exactly 4 days. They did not just want the money. They were on a strict deadline. If Mara lived past Sunday, they lost $400,000. They were not just killing her. They were racing the calendar. My hands started to shake. The rage rose up in my throat like bile. I wanted to run into their bedroom and scream. I wanted to shake them awake and show them the paper. I wanted to tear the house down around them. But then the training kicked in. Amateurs scream. Professionals document. If I yell, I am just the hysterical daughter having a breakdown. If I wake them up, they flush the pills, burn the policy, and call the police on me. But if I stay quiet, if I swap the isotopes and log the timestamps, I am the executioner. I took my phone out. I photographed every page of the policy. I photographed the lock on the desk. I photographed the Bible. I needed proof of the motive. I put everything back exactly as I found it. I locked the drawer. Then I went to the kitchen. I put on a pair of latex gloves from my kit. I opened the vitamin bottle where they hid the blue pills. I took 3 of them and put them in a specimen bag. Then I took a sample of the white powder residue from the counter. I had the motive. I had the weapon. Now I just needed to disable it. I returned to the guest room and opened my travel pharmacy kit. It was not just a bag of aspirin and Band-Aids. It was a mobile compounding station. I needed a double. I needed a pill that looked exactly like the 30-milligram oxycodone tablets my mother was using to kill my sister. I poured out my own supply of supplements onto the bedspread. Magnesium. 2 white. Iron. 2 red. And then I found it. Melatonin. 5 milligrams. They were small, round, and the exact same shade of pale, chalky blue as the narcotics. I held one up to the light. It was perfect, except for one detail. The tiny letter M stamped on one side. I took out a diamond grit nail file from my toiletry bag. I sat cross-legged on the bed, working with the steady hands of a surgeon. One by one, I gently scraped the surface of the melatonin pills. I filed away the identifier code until the tablet was smooth and anonymous. I worked for 40 minutes, filing 20 pills until my fingers were coated in fine blue dust. I crushed one into a spoon to test the texture. It broke down into the same fine, grainy powder as the oxycodone. Once it was mixed into a thick vanilla shake, it would be indistinguishable. I crept back to the kitchen. The house was still dead silent. I retrieved the vitamin bottle from the cabinet. I dumped the lethal opioids into a plastic baggie and shoved them deep into my pocket. These were my evidence. Then, I filled the bottle with my modified melatonin. I gave the bottle a shake. It rattled just like the real thing. To my mother, it was just fuel for the next dose. To me, it was a harmless sleep aid. They were trying to put Mara into a coma. I was just going to give her a good night's rest. Next was the vodka. I took the cheap plastic bottle from behind the oatmeal. It was half full. I walked to the sink and poured the liquor down the drain, running the water silently to wash away the smell. I filled the bottle back up with tap water, but water does not smell like vodka. If my father opened it to pour a shot, he might notice the lack of fumes. I took a sterile alcohol prep pad from my kit, the kind used before giving an injection. I wiped the rim of the vodka bottle and the inside of the cap with the isopropyl alcohol. I screwed the cap back on tight. Now, when they cracked the seal, the first thing to hit their nose would be the sharp sting of alcohol. It was a sensory trick, a sleight of hand. They were so confident in their plan, so arrogant in their control, that they would never think to taste test the murder weapon. I placed the bottle back exactly where I found it, turning the label to the same angle. I stood back and looked at the counter. The vitamin bottle was there. The vodka was there. Everything looked exactly as it had an hour ago. The weapon was loaded, but I had replaced the bullets with blanks. They thought they were the predators in this house. They thought they were the ones holding the power of life and death. They did not realize that the prey had just dismantled the trap. I went back to my room and lay down, but I did not sleep. I stared at the ceiling fan, counting the rotations. I had the motive. I had the physical evidence. And now, I had ensured that their next attempt would be a performance, not a tragedy. But I still needed them to act. I needed them to commit the crime while the world was watching. And I knew exactly how to make them panic. I dragged my suitcase into the kitchen the next morning. My parents were sitting at the table, drinking coffee, looking like 2 people waiting for a lottery number to be called. They looked up, surprised to see me packed. "I cannot do this anymore," I said, letting my voice crack just enough to sound broken, watching her fade like this. "It is too much. I am going back to the city." My mother's face softened into that mask of false sympathy. "Oh, honey, we understand. It is hard to watch. You were never good with the messy parts of life." I nodded, swallowing the urge to vomit. I have to go. But before I leave, there is something you should know. Mara was lucid for a few minutes last night. She asked me to call her lawyer. My father's head snapped up so fast I heard his neck crack. Her lawyer? Why? She wants to update her will. I lied, keeping my eyes on the floor. She said since she is dying, she wants to leave a legacy. She is changing the insurance beneficiary to that local cat rescue charity on Monday morning. The lawyer is coming at 9. The room went dead silent. The air pressure dropped. I could practically hear the gears grinding in their heads. Monday morning. Today was Sunday. If Mara lived another 24 hours, the money was gone. The house was gone. Their retirement was gone. My father stood up, his face pale. Monday? Are you sure? Yes, I said. She was very specific. She wants to sign the papers first thing. I watched the panic set in. They exchanged a look. A desperate, terrified look. The timeline had just shrunk from days to hours. They did not have a choice anymore. They had to act tonight. I picked up my bag. Oh. And Mom. I bought this for you. I reached into my purse and pulled out the digital baby monitor. It was a high-end model, sleek and white with a camera and a receiver screen. I know your knees have been bothering you, I said. I set it up in Mara's room. This way, you can sit in the garden or the living room and hear her if she calls out. You do not have to keep running up and down the stairs. Brenda accepted the device, seeing convenience, not surveillance, never knowing I had already connected it to Wi-Fi and installed the app. She was holding evidence of her own crime. I parked 3 blocks away, opened the feed, and watched Mara sleep. Then I called Officer Miller. I'm in position. At 8:30, my parents entered Mara's room. My mother carried the poisoned drink. My father stood watch. I listened as Brenda coaxed her to swallow it. Mara drank. It was sugar, melatonin, and water, but watching them wait for her to die nearly broke me. 20 minutes later, my father called emergency services, screaming into the phone while my mother wailed over Mara's legs. Police and paramedics arrived as I drove back in behind them. When they blocked the bedroom door, crying that she was dead, I pushed through. She's sleeping, I said. I shook Mara awake. She groaned alive. Shock erased my parents' performance. I handed Officer Miller the toxicology report showing oxycodone hidden in Brenda's vitamins, the swapped pills in evidence bags, and then played the recorded footage. Dosage discussions. The fake emergency call. They're waiting. Neighbors recoiled. Phones came out. You weren't easing pain, I told them. You were liquidating an asset. Police cuffed them for attempted murder and insurance fraud. As they were dragged away, my father screamed about losing the house. You wanted a payout, I whispered. You got prison. The next morning I filed civil suits and froze their assets with a prejudgment lien. Bail vanished. The mortgage collapsed. 30 days later, foreclosure took the home they tried to kill for. Mara survived, qualified for a transplant, and received a new liver months later. We moved away. I still work with medication. Now I know exactly what pills are worth, and exactly what I am.